Good evening, dear listeners. Welcome to tonight's Family Mediation Time. I'm your old friend, Whispering Life Stories. Tonight, we won't talk about grand theories, only real stories. The protagonist of this story, we'll call him JJ, is married, and his wife did not take his last name. In today's world, that's nothing unusual, as long as both people agree. Later, they had a son. The couple decided to give the child Jay's last name and use the wife's surname as a middle name. This is a tradition in the wife's family, and it was a shared decision. It sounds beautiful, doesn't it? A new life carrying the marks of two families. But the problem lies with Jay's father. What kind of person is Jay's father? In Jay's own words, he's an asshole. On the day the baby was born, Jay shared the news in the family group chat. Everyone was celebrating and congratulating him except his father, who replied with one sentence, "Who is the child's name?" A newborn grandson being asked, "Who are you?" by his own grandfather. Jay said he didn't like the joke. His father apologized, but the apology was perfunctory. "I was just joking." And then nothing. Absolutely nothing. For 2 years. This grandfather has not made a single phone call, sent a single phone call, sent a single message, given a birthday gift, or a Christmas present. He has maintained a complete and total silence toward the existence of this child. Friends, can you imagine that? Your own father can't even bring himself to say congratulations for your newborn child. But the story goes deeper. Jay recalls that his father was never kind to him growing up. Not physical abuse, but verbal. Not fair discipline, but selective belittling. Jay was one of 7 children, and he clearly felt that he was the least favored. His father favored his other siblings, especially one younger brother, while treating Jay with constant sarcasm. Constantly attacking his intelligence and everything about him, he developed severe insecurity, severe identity issues. And the most ironic part, he shares the exact same name as his father. He is the second. Every day, you use your name. Every time someone calls you, every time you sign your name, every time you introduce yourself, you are repeating the name of the person who hurt you your entire life. What kind of torment is that? And recently, something happened that made everything even more painful. Jay's father's family runs a charity organization that raises funds for impoverished children in the Philippines. In previous years, they held golf tournaments, and Jay, along with his siblings and cousins, would participate. But this year, Jay's wife saw on social media there was no golf event. Instead, his father took several of Jay's siblings and cousins and flew directly to the Philippines for so-called charity work. They didn't tell Jay. They didn't invite Jay. Even more painful, social media was filled with photos and videos from the trip. Professionally shot, carefully edited. In the footage, his father looked kind and loving, like a generous man, donating a batch of Apple computers to a high school. A man who ignores his own grandson is playing the role of a family man in front of strangers. And Jay, a few years ago, Jay lost his job, and his wife was unemployed as well. They were struggling to pay rent. Jay swallowed his pride and asked his father for help. His father told him, "Get lost." So now Jay's wife has made a request. Change the child's last name. She doesn't want their son to share the same surname as this man. Jay initially opposed it. They argued about it. But now, Jay himself is starting to waver. Not because of conflict with his wife, but because of the conflict within himself. He doesn't want his son to relive his own experience. He doesn't want his son to grow up Googling his own name and finding relatives who don't even know he exists. He doesn't want his son to carry the imprint of a cold, indifferent man. But at the same time, he can't let go. That's his name. It's part of him. He wants to pass a piece of himself to his son. He said, "I realize this might just be my ego, but I can't control it." Friends, how do you feel hearing this? What I want to say is what hurts the most in this story is not the father's coldness, but Jay's inner conflict, being hurt for a lifetime, yet still unable to let go. In psychology, there's a concept called trauma bonding. We can develop a pathological loyalty to those who hurt us, especially when this pattern forms during childhood. Jay's father denied him, ignored him, treated him unfairly, but deep down, Jay may still be waiting for his father to change, waiting for him to say, "I'm proud of you," waiting for him to love him like a normal father would. Every time that hope is crushed, he tells himself, this is the last time. But every time he still holds on to a sliver of hope. That's why, even after all this, he still hesitates about changing his son's last name, because changing it means a complete break. It means accepting that his father will never change. It means letting go of that, maybe one day, and that letting go is harder than any injury. So tonight, I want to invite you to think about this question. How should we face those who are supposed to love us but hurt us instead? Should we sacrifice our children's mental well-being for their image? Should we allow the next generation to carry the wounds of the previous one just for the sake of family legacy? Jay's wife is right. A grandfather who has never been present in his grandson's life has no right to have his surname carried forward. A man who shows no basic respect to his own son has no right to have his name passed down. A name should be a mark of love, not a continuation of trauma. But I also understand Jay's hesitation, because it's not just his father's name, it's his own. He has built his life, his family, his identity with that name. Changing his son's surname feels, in some way, like rejecting a part of himself. So I want to say this to Jayon, to anyone listening who is going through something similar. You do not need to define your worth through someone else's failure. What your father did to you was not your fault. His inability to love you, acknowledge you, or be a proper grandfather, that is his failure, not yours. Your name stopped belonging to him the moment you walked away. It became yours. Something you rewrote with your own life. If your son is proud of your name one day, it will not be because of your father, but because of you. So the real question isn't whether to change the name. The real question is, what do you want your son to inherit from you? Trauma? Coldness? A lifetime of waiting for love? Or courage, boundaries, and the strength to break the cycle? Let me share a short story. There was once a young man whose father was alcoholic, violent, and absent. When he grew up, he swore never to become like his father, and he succeeded. He became a gentle, responsible, present father. But one day his son asked him, "Dad, why don't you talk to your father?" He froze. He didn't know how to answer. Later, he figured it out. He told his son, "Because some people's love is something you will never receive, and I don't want you to experience the pain of waiting for it." Friends, sometimes the deepest form of love is not forgiveness. It's protecting the next generation from the pain you endured. Jay, you said you're considering going back to therapy. I want to say that may be the best decision you can make right now. Not for anyone else, but for yourself. For the little boy who was never properly loved.
Now the second story, a pregnant woman. She is 35 weeks along. Her body feels heavy like it's filled with lead. Every time she turns over, it feels like a battle. Her mother, with good intentions, wants to throw her a baby shower in a few weeks. Sounds warm, right?
But the location of the party is 2 hours away from the hospital where she plans to give birth, and she is 35 weeks pregnant. She tries to talk to her mother. "Can we move the party to my house? That way, I won't have to travel, and if anything happens, I'll be close to the hospital." Her mother says no, because relatives from out of town have already made arrangements, because transporting gifts would be inconvenient, because changing the location would be too troublesome for everyone. She asks, "Don't you think that same inconvenience, no, an even greater burden, is being placed on a 35-week pregnant woman?" The conversation escalates. She starts to feel guilty, even questioning whether she's being selfish. In the end, the party is canceled. Her parents are angry, and she, with her husband's support, lets out a long breath of relief. She says, "It feels like I don't have to put on that monkey costume in 3 weeks and pretend to be a nauseous whale." This story made me think deeply. Why is it that when we most need care, the people closest to us sometimes understand us the least? Let's clarify one thing. What does 35 weeks pregnant mean? Medically, full term is 37 weeks. At 35 weeks, some babies are already ready to come out. At this stage, complications like high blood pressure, preterm labor, or placental issues can arise. Any small disturbance can turn into an emergency. What does a 2-hour drive mean? It means that if her water breaks at the party, she has to endure a 2-hour journey to reach the hospital she trusts. Every minute on that road would feel like an eternity. She's not being dramatic. She's being cautious. But what does her mother see? "I've put in so much effort. Relatives are traveling from afar. What about the gifts? Why can't you make a small sacrifice for everyone's convenience?" Do you see it? They are not even talking about the same thing. The mother is saying the success of the party matters, The daughter is saying, my safety and my baby's safety matter. Can these two things be compared? Of course not. But when they conflict, the safety of a 35-week pregnant woman will always matter more than the convenience of a party, because the party can be redone. The baby cannot. This mother does love her daughter. The effort she put into planning the party is itself an expression of love. But loving someone does not mean you can see things from their perspective. There's a concept in psychology called the empathy gap. When someone has not personally experienced a situation, it's hard for them to truly understand it. The mother may have forgotten what it feels like to be 35 weeks pregnant, or she comes from a generation that believes pregnancy isn't an illness, don't be so delicate. So her love is expressed in the way she thinks is right. Organizing a party, inviting relatives, making everything lively. But the daughter needs a different kind of love. Understanding her physical limits, prioritizing her comfort and safety, even if it means changing plans. These two forms of love are not right or wrong, but at this moment they collide. In an update, the husband tries to talk to the father. He says one sentence. A few days ago, she slept for 18 hours. What does that mean? It means her body is already at its limit. Her exhaustion is not mild. It is her body forcing her to stop. The father's response? Just one word. Sure. Then he continues talking about how much effort went into the party. This moment is heartbreaking. It's not because the father is a bad person, but because in his framework, the effort spent on the party outweighs his daughter slept for 18 hours. He has invested too much into the party, and now he needs it to succeed. This is what psychology calls the sunk cost fallacy. The more we invest in something, the harder it becomes to let go even when continuing no longer makes sense. The father doesn't lack love, he's just too invested to see clearly. She says, I started feeling guilty just for asking. Think about that. A 35-week pregnant woman makes a completely reasonable request for her own safety and ends up feeling guilty. This reminds me of so many women, especially in family dynamics. We are taught to not inconvenience others, to not be a burden, to endure, to be good. So when we finally speak up for ourselves, we feel like we're wrong. We internalize it. We see ourselves as the problem. We see boundaries as offenses, see self-protection as selfishness. But I want to say to this mother and to everyone listening, you do not need to apologize for protecting yourself. You do not need to feel guilty for inconveniencing others, especially when their convenience is far less important than your safety. She is not selfish. She is brave. Between pleasing everyone and protecting herself, she chose the latter. And while that cost her the party and her parents' happiness, she gained something far more important: peace, safety, and control over her own body. You might still be wondering, did I do something wrong? Did I hurt my mother? No. You did nothing wrong. You made a reasonable request. You tried to communicate. And when that failed, you chose to protect yourself and your baby. That is not selfishness. That is motherhood. Your mother may be upset for a while, and that's okay. Anger is not the opposite of love. Indifference is. She's angry because she cares. She just sees things from a different perspective. When things calm down, you can hug her and say, Mom, thank you for wanting to throw me a party. After I give birth and recover, we can have it at home. I'll be the happiest guest in the world. For now, lie back on the couch. Elevate your feet, drink some warm water, and feel your baby moving. You made the right decision. Good night, dear Mother to be. May the rest of your pregnancy be calm, safe, and gentle. Your late-night emotional storyteller, staying with you in the quiet spaces between stories.